Where does the four-wheel underground suspension shine more? Creeping, crawling on the Rubicon, or going crazy fast out on Johnson Valley desert floor?
Yeah, good question. It honestly does great in both scenarios. Whether I'm going through the Rubicon or doing 50 to 60 miles an hour through washes at Johnson Valley, it's really impressive what the suspension does. I think that goes a lot to show how well it's engineered, how well the roll center is controlled, and how well the geometry all goes together. No matter what I'm doing, I feel stable. I feel predictable. It's fantastic.
That makes a lot of sense because they are designed to be great on and off road.
That's true. I do drive the rig to and from the trails as well. And I noticed on tight, windy mountain roads, I don't feel like I'm throwing the body off the chassis anymore. I just have one question.
What's that?
When are we putting some four-wheel underground parts underneath Samantha?
Soon, very soon, and I'm excited to do so. And if you are looking to move your vehicle from leaf springs to a linked suspension kit, make sure to check out fourwheelunderground.com.
Hey, Jimmy, do you use any mapping software when you go off-roading?
Yeah, I use Onyx Off-Road.
Oh, nice. I do too. Have you been seeing the updates they've been sending out recently?
Yeah, the maps are changing. They're getting rid of that green spaghetti and they're changing it up to something a little bit more colorful.
Yeah, as much as I love the neon spaghetti that was on there, they're actually making a really cool update that's going to make all the trails colored based on difficulty ratings, which makes it easier to explore the trails around you.
Yeah, I know how much you love the neon green, but I think this is a good feature for them because now not only can you find a trail near you, but you can actually get an idea of its difficulty.
It is. It's a really nice change. That's one of the reasons why I like Onyx Off-Road and I've been enjoying using them is they're always looking for ways to make the app better. They're always rolling out updates, which all of them just makes things easier for when you're going out and exploring the trails around you.
So if you want to go out and explore and find trails near you, make sure to download the app Onyx Off-Road. Welcome one, welcome all to the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, maybe poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and especially hearing about how well 80s wheel up Kane Creek, then this is the podcast for you. What up, everybody? How's it going today? My name's Jimmy Jett. Welcome to Snail Trail 4x4 podcast episode. Who knows how I'm going to label this one. But today I have a special guest with me, and that is Mr. Lee Lim, Solve Function, cruising to camp himself. Lee, how are you doing today?
Doing fantastic.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. It's been a fantastic day.
Oh, yeah.
So Lee and I were out and about, and we decided to head over to Cruise Moab. Not together this time. Usually we carpool or caravan, I think is the correct word.
Yep.
But Lee had to work.
Yeah.
Boo.
Too many things to do.
Yes. So he drove all the way yesterday, all the way out here. And I drove out on Tuesday, spent the night in Salt Lake City, and then drove the rest of the way down to Moab on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And you bombed all the way on Wednesday. And because you drove the entire way on Wednesday, you missed tech inspection.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
by only 3.5 hours.
Yeah, and it was close. You were super close, but yeah, you missed it a little bit. I think I'm going to back up a little bit here, and I'm just going to explain that I think Lee and I, to some extent, are going to try to do a review of our days here in Moab. I think I would love to see if we could get all 3 days back to back to back.
I'm down.
Oh, all right. And so these will be coming out back to back. They're going to be a little different format, sort of just trail reviews, talking about our days, stuff like that. And so just wanted to give a heads up to the listeners out there that that's the game plan today. We're not going to do so much housekeeping. We're not going to talk about other randomness. We're just going to talk about the trail that we did and the chaos and fun that we had.
I'm going to be shocked if the randomness doesn't come out.
Oh, it definitely will.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I mean, I expect nothing less from you. So you missed tech, and tech opened on Thursday at 7 a.m. to 8 a.m.
Yep.
But our trail meetup time was 6 a.m. and departure was 6:30.
Yeah, those two didn't line up too well.
Oh, there was a little poor planning there. So what we did was, I mean, we got on radio communications, and you and Morgan, is his Instagram name Dirty Koala something?
Yep, Dirty Koala.
Okay, yeah. So Dirty Koala stayed back. You went to tech inspection.
Mm-hmm.
Dirty Koala hung out at the house because we got an Airbnb or VRBO or whatever it is.
I know, it's a nice place.
It is a nice place, yeah, and it's super close to the arena, so I might walk there tomorrow to the party.
Yeah, it's one stop down the road.
It's crazy. So I went down the road and to the meetup time in the morning, met up with everybody, told them that you didn't make it through tech, or you didn't make it to tech, and you had to go to tech today, and that you and Morgan will be catching up to us.
Which is preferred.
Yeah, kind of. You 80 guys like to drive fast.
Yeah.
Maybe there's no happy medium in there. It's like fast or like super duper slow.
Yeah, well, coils. So we have the ability.
You're a step above leaf springs. Is that what you're saying?
Depends on what you use them for.
Okay.
But coils are better for going fast, I would say.
Yes.
Even though we're, basically a hippo on ice skates, but, we do it.
I think we just renamed your rig.
From the white whale?
Yeah, white hippo on ice skates.
Okay.
Or something.
That conjures a picture.
Yeah. Some little dog back here doesn't like us talking.
I wonder if does Lorenzo bark?
Oh, I don't know. Don't they more like bray?
Maybe. I don't know. They're walking.
Oh, is it people?
Yeah. Or person at least.
Person walking back here. Yeah, so we're sitting out here after we did a trail today. We're sitting in the backyard. It's absolutely gorgeous. We're having some cervezas. What are we having? A Lagunitas, the beast of both worlds. Bi-coastal IPA.
Yeah. East Coast. Best of East Coast and West Coast.
I like it.
Oh.
Tastes good.
I like Lagunitas, so I'd try something new.
Yeah. So I went to tech, I went to the trail meetup. I told the trail leader, Johnny, from, and this trail was sponsored by Cruisers and Company. Thank you for showing me that. I knew what it was, though. It was, and so Cruisers and Company, there's like 6 of them out there.
Yeah, they had a whole gang.
They're
wearing the
3 rigs,
same
like 2
shirts.
people. Yeah, same shirts. Very official looking. Mm-hmm. They did a good job. They were fantastic.
Did a great job.
I've never heard of the company before.
Oh.
You weren't around because after we started the run, I asked them, like, okay, as a non-Land Cruiser person, what do you do? Like, tell me about it. But we'll get, and then he told us, like, they do builds and maintenance, and he's starting to come out with parts.
Yeah, they're new to the scene. I think less than a year or a year or so. But they're coming on strong. So they're doing good.
Good. Glad to hear that. So, yeah, after I told them that you were running late, you weren't going to be there, that you were planning on catching up, they were like, well, let's just hang out for a little bit. We've got some very good rigs. Everybody has wheeled the trail before, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. We can just motor through. We don't have to slow down and talk about things or discuss the obstacles very much. And so we hung out. We were supposed to leave at 6:30. We left at 6:45, and we wheeled all the way out to the trailhead, aired down, hung out there, talked for a little bit, and then I tried to reach you on the radio and didn't get anything back from you.
Yeah.
And then we wheeled out a ways, and then I started to hear some chatter coming from the radio from you.
Yep.
But I was calling back to you, and I don't know if you heard because it didn't sound like we were in a good communication.
No, I didn't hear you for a little bit.
Okay. Did you first hear me when you guys were airing down?
Yeah. Well, I first heard you at the trailhead.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys were at the trailhead at like 8:20ish.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Because I think we just got to the top of this first sort of obstacle where it was just like a steep downhill to an immediate straight or big climb out of this little gully that you go in.
Right. The little ravine deal.
Mm-hmm.
Bumper scraper for sure.
And so it was an optional line, and almost everybody went through it except for the 40.
Oh, okay.
And maybe the white 80 that I think Steve was driving? Scott was driving?
Scott. I think Steve was in the end in the 60.
Yes, okay.
Or 62. I don't know which one. Round
it was
round
60,
eyes.
Round eyes. Yeah. No, round eyes 60. which wasn't really quite a 60 anymore. Had some modifications done to it.
Well, yeah.
It radius arms on top of the axle.
Yeah, Australian thing.
Flipped the radius arms.
Very Australian.
Dana, or it was a diamond axle with a 9.5 in the front, but the same width as an 80.
Mm-hmm.
And then
1HDT.
Oh yeah, whatever that is. What's that?
It had a turbo diesel.
Turbo diesel. Okay.
12
Sure.
12 valve. Well, maybe it didn't have a turbo, but it had a 12 valve turbo.
Yeah, and then some sort of black box, I believe, in the back behind it.
Oh.
Northwest Fab.
It had twin
box.
sticks.
Yeah.
Okay.
He had low gears with me.
Got it. Yeah.
The low gear people were in the back.
Oh, lucky.
Yeah. So we had some fun. But yeah, and I'm not sure I don't remember if he did that obstacle or not. But that's when we first got into communications of each other.
Yeah.
And the trail to there is super basic. It's kind of a fire road.
Yeah, it's all fire road, fun stuff.
Yeah, and then after that's still a fire road with some small, rocky, like sort of off-camber turns. Nothing really that bad.
They're pretty chill.
Yeah. And then there's a squeeze rock.
Uh-huh.
That Frank in a highly modified 100 series had ever so slight problems with because he is so wide he couldn't fit between the small rock and the big rock.
Oh.
He actually got a little bit of body damage right before his rear tires because the smaller rock pushed him into the bigger rock.
Got it. Okay.
And so he backed up and he was like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm not going to fit." I'm like, "Well, just go over the smaller rock." He's like, "Yeah, I could do that." So he did that, and then I was next at that point, and I tried to do that, and I got up onto two tires. I started teeter-tottering. Like my back tire would hit, and I itched forward, and then my front tire hit, and then my back tire hit, and I saw Johnny was sort of guiding.
Yeah.
And his eyes got really big. And I was like, I'll back off.
He's more worried than you were.
Yeah, he was.
How was Paul's face?
I didn't see it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had my college mate, Paul, was riding with me. He came out here, so he had a good time. He's never seen anything like this. So.
Oh.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have sort of a new experienced person riding with you. You know, it's just like, oh my God, it's beautiful out here. Oh my God, look at these cliffs. Oh wow, look at this. You know, and it is absolutely stunning out here. But when you've been here a few times, you're kind of jaded about it.
Yeah, but it is super beautiful. Even just driving in, the drive-in's nice.
Yeah, it is down that like gully or ravine in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right as you pass the trailhead for like Metal Masher.
Yep.
And Goonieburg and Gemini Bridges area. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all nice.
Yeah, so then the next little obstacle after that was sort of another kind of squeeze point where you're turning. And I've done that obstacle before. And so I told you guys, hey, when you get to this obstacle, you just have to go high driver around it. And we didn't really have any problems with it. Richard, what was his name? You said Broski.
Yep.
Tried to drive over that big rock.
Uh-huh.
And he got way up in the air with his rear tire. And I think he puckered himself pretty good.
Nice. Yeah.
And I like that guy because he always likes to try the hard lines first.
Yeah.
And then he does some. Then he'll mellow himself down.
Yeah, he wheels on 39s and does Ford Ice and Rubicon and all the things. He wheels hard.
I've wheeled Rubicon with him or Ford Ice with him before.
Oh, sweet.
No, Rubicon with him before because he's done a line on Soup Bowl that I've never seen anybody do.
Oh,
yeah, he literally. So you know Soup Bowl. So
my
Soup Bowl's
nemesis.
Yeah, right. Soup Bowl is 2 humps, right? And you kind of got to get up the first hump, and then you start climbing the second hump, and usually you get a tire up to the top, and then you do turn hard passenger, and you kind of scoot yourself along and out.
Yeah.
He drove up the first hump, and then somehow turned himself 90 degrees in the middle of Soup Bowl, and drove straight out like it was a freeway.
Oh wow!
No problems whatsoever. Just whoop. And I was like, I've never seen that done before. Never seen it done after.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Hey, you haven't attempted it yet?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I have a way to get through Soup Bowl that works quite often, and I just keep doing that process because it gets me through.
That's fair.
So Broski tried to go up on a crazy line, backed off, went high driver, went around. I didn't even need to go that high driver because I'm so narrow compared to all you guys that Johnny was telling me to go hire driver, and I just kind of leaned my rock slider against the big rock and just boofed it, or whatever Tyler would say.
Oh, yes.
Around and drove out of it. But how did that obstacle go for you guys?
I don't remember.
At that point, you guys you weren't caught up to us.
No, we weren't caught up to you. The squeeze rock, I scraped a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got
rear quarter panel or what?
Yeah, rear passenger quarter panel, just a little bit. I could hear it, but it wasn't bad. It didn't actually dent it any more than it's already dented.
Okay, yeah.
So that went fine. The other one, I think, was, we had to slow down for it, but it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah. Once you know the kind of the line or the idea how to get around that rock, it's not that bad at all.
Yeah, most of the time when we got to something, and you're like, hey, you need to do this here, we're like, is this the obstacle he's talking about?
It's hard to explain it. It's like, hey, you're coming to this really big corner, and there's a huge rock on the right side, and when you come to this corner, you have to go high driver.
Yeah.
Well, how many corners is that, you know?
Yeah, there was a squeeze before it, or a drop before, and it was like, is this the drop he's talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We waited there for a little bit. We just sort of chilled, there was 2 dogs with us, let the dogs run around out of the rigs, just relaxed. And then shortly after that, we dropped into the creek for Kane Creek, the trail we were running.
Yeah, and I think at that point too, I got you to turn on your APRS.
Yes.
So it said by your last ping from that, you were like 270 yards away.
Wow.
So you're close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then our trail lead accidentally took us the wrong direction. And it's funny because there are thousands of ways to go through that trail. There's so many options of runs, like lefts, rights, straights, up the creek, down the creek,
Yeah.
But there's an official trail, and being an event run, we try to stick to the official trail.
Yeah. Because you don't want to create more trail damage.
Absolutely. Hey! Whatever that is sounds fun. That sounds throaty.
Yeah.
So we turned ourselves around, got back onto trail, wheeled up a little bit, and I forgot the reason. I think we were just all getting collected after getting mixed up on going the wrong way. And then you came on the radio and you're like, we just dropped into the river. And because I said, hey, when you get to the river, go left. Don't go straight, because that's the way we went. It's not right. Go left. And you're like, we just dropped into the river. And I'm like, oh, damn, they're right here. And I went and told Johnny, and I was like, hey, man, they just dropped into the river. And he's like, oh, we'll wait for another 30 seconds. And then all of a sudden, 280's going like 80 miles an hour up this Goalie Creek area, come flying up on us and catch up in no time. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, Morgan and I like to...
You guys like to party.
Yeah.
I know. Do you think you damaged your... reservoir already by that point?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah. There were some noises.
Okay.
And at some point the noises became
louder noises.
There were noises, and there's always noises.
Yeah.
But then at one point there were, hey, I should probably look at this noise.
Right. Yeah. And that wasn't too much longer, because we were driving through the creek. You cross the creek, you go in and out of the creek, I don't know, like 20, 30 times. It was a lot.
Probably more than that. Morgan started counting, and I was hoping he would continue, but he stopped.
Yeah. So last time I did this run was a few years ago, and Tyler's father rode with me.
Uh-huh.
And he's a very mathematical type of person.
Okay.
And he counted, and I swear he counted like in the 80s.
Wow.
But I don't think it didn't feel that high. But I think he was also counting like, you pop out of the creek and you just go on the beach and then you go back in the creek. I think he was counting those as 2, not like, I was always like, did we leave the creek? Like go away from the creek.
Okay.
And then come back, that would be a different one. So,
sure.
I don't know. If you do this trail, you cross the creek a bunch of times.
Yeah. Now I want a little, those little counters that people have at doorways?
Like at Walmart, count people coming in.
I want one of those somewhere so I could just punch it every time and count whatever.
How many times you go through
a creek or over sand walls or whatever.
Sure. Absolutely. It's a fun trail because of that. I mean, at this point, there wasn't really any hard obstacle.
No.
It's just fire roads, some slight obstacles that you have to pay attention to, and then you fall down or you go down into the creek, and you just kind of go in and out of the creek through washes, through sandy parts, beach side. And at one point, at this point I was letting Paul drive, my buddy, and as soon as we did that harder obstacle, where the high driver side, I told Paul, hey man, you want to drive? You can drive. This section here is a lot of fun. It's pretty chill. You know, we're driving in and out of the creek. It's fun. He's like, yeah, I'll drive. I was like, cool. So I was letting him drive, and we came to this big open area, sandy area, and Lee just hammers down and passes Paul and I and pulls in front of us. And then was it like right there or just the next creek?
It was through that creek.
Through that creek.
It sounded different.
Next side, you're like, I got to stop. I'm like, something's making a weird noise on the front.
Yeah.
And so what happened?
So my sway bar decided to relocate my the remote reservoir on my shock into a better position.
Okay.
So it moved. Usually it's beside, and this is on the driver's side, it's beside the spring, or nestled between the spring and the steering box.
Yeah.
But when I looked at it, it was horizontal above both.
Yeah.
Which wasn't a terrible place, except that the sway bar was going to hit it every time that driver's side articulated up. So it took a couple minutes, took it apart and just relocated it to a new spot so it could be have a new home from now next to the starter.
Yeah, there you go. Is this going to be like a permanent trail fix or what?
No, I think I'm going to put it behind everything on the side, and I think I want to find, like, I know they have reservoir coolers.
Oh.
And I don't really want it to cool the reservoir. You know, they're finned. I just want to put it on to protect it from all the rocks and stuff that are going to hit it while driving down the road.
Okay.
More than to cool it. I mean, sure, cooling a reservoir would be great when running down washboards and stuff, but mostly so it doesn't just get pummeled by rocks any more than I've already pummeled it.
Yeah, yes, you pummeled it pretty good.
It's been a trooper.
Definitely. I know that the passenger side, because I looked at that one as a comparison, because you're like, it's not supposed to be like that. And I was like, it looks pretty good. Like, it seems just too far out, towards the exterior of the vehicle. And so I went and looked at the passenger side, and the passenger side was, up and down vertical. And it's tucked in between, like, the shock hoop kind of, and or the shock spring mount and your frame.
Yeah.
And on the driver's side, it sort of does the same, but you have your power steering box there. So it pushed it further. It seems like it pushed it further outboard on your vehicle, and that's why you're having problems.
Yeah. And I've messed with the links and stuff to try and make room in there, but apparently it's not enough. Which
apparently so. Seem to have a problem today.
I figured there'd be some. I'd find some issues I'd have to work out during this trip.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, you've done a few things to your rig in the last...
Off season?
Yeah, the off season, last 4 months or something.
Yeah.
Want to talk about that real quick?
It's on 37s.
Yeah, so you went up from 35s to the 7s.
Yep, tag 37s. I put in a front TK1 sway bar going through the frame. They put on the drag and tie link from Delta, and those are now aluminum. The rear lower links are chromo from Delta. The OEM ones I've bent several times, so that'll be nice. I can just slam into things at will and see what I can do with them.
Yeah,
I think those are the major things.
Yeah. So it's a little larger than it was before.
Yeah,
and therefore you drive a little faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand that. I understand
it's
you
fun.
On that. Yeah. Do you still have Kong bump stops in the rear?
Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing. Yeah. Kong bump stops in the rear, and I have the King hydro bumps in the front on a Delta mount. So now I have King Kong bump stops.
I like it. That's awesome. Oh, funny. So we fixed that up, and one of the things I did while you were working on your rig was I did install a winch on Bobcat. I did finalize everything, and it was installed, but I never actually unspooled the winch and spooled it back up under tension.
Good.
And so while you were working on that, I said, well, now's probably a good time for us to do that. So there's some downtime, and we can get this done most likely within the time limit.
Nice.
And so we pulled it all the way out. We attached it to a tree. Paul was in the front, kind of pointing me which way I needed to turn to keep the rope spooling correctly on the drum. Back and forth, and we drove it almost like within 5 or 6 feet of the tree, and then I took it apart from the tree and just reeled it the rest of the way in.
Okay.
From there, so hopefully, because tomorrow I'm wheeling Pritchett, and that's the reason they told me I should have a winch. So now that I added a winch and it's properly spooled, I'm not gonna need the winch.
Of course,
that's my goal.
Yeah. And if you don't properly spool a winch, then we had issues with that today.
Yeah, and we'll jump to that here in just a second, because once you fix your rig, we bombed pretty quick. We had lunch at a great spot, a big open area next to the creek. Hung out there for a second, and then we wheeled a little bit further. And the major obstacle on this trail is called Hamburger Hill. Hamburger Hill is an uphill if you're going in the direction that we went from Kane Creek Road out to Highway 191. And it's fairly simple.
Who goes the other way?
I don't know. Weirdos. It's fairly simple at the bottom, and then it gets rockier and rockier as you get to the top. And then there's a fairly significant ledge in the middle, or like whatever, 8/10. What is that? 4/5 of the way up.
Yeah. Not like backdoor. Maybe half backdoor size.
You think?
I would say half.
So there was a gentleman there, and he was like 5'10", and it was a little bit shorter than.
Backdoor is much more intimidating.
Yes. So, but it's a fun obstacle. So we had the 40 went up first, and there's a bypass around it, and so he went around the bypass, and then he took himself up there's another rocky ledge after that, and he took himself out of the way. And then the next rig that went up was Frank's rig, and Frank has
Frank or Trevor?
Shoot, it is Trevor. You are right. I am sorry.
Okay.
I think I called him
I was
Frank
confused.
when we were leaving. Dang it. I'm sorry, Trevor, if you listen to this. You are absolutely right, Trevor.
All right. I'm less confused now.
Yes. Here, who's Frank? I don't know if I just kept thinking his rig was like Frank the Tank. It's just like this big, like beefy thing that just hits things.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Trevor on the 100 series, the modified 100 series, hits it, the obstacle next, drives all the way up there, no problems for the most part, goes to the ledge, hits the ledge, like gives it the Moab bump, slides all the way to the driver's side, backs up, tries it 2 or 3 more times.
A few times, yeah.
And then we'll go, turn your lockers on. And he's like, okay, I don't really have lockers. But I mean, we could figure this out. You know, I have a Milwaukee 12 volt, and I can go and connect the wires, and we can turn them on. A little sideshow from Delta Dave over there. Thanks, Dave. So I crawled under his rig. I engaged with a 12 volt Milwaukee battery. I engaged his rear locker.
Yes. Yeah.
Try it again.
Green to positive.
And green with the black line to negative. Was that it?
I don't know. No. Shoot.
It was 2 green wires, and one of them had black lines, and one way or the other, depending how you hooked it up, engaged the locker or disengaged the locker.
Right.
So I crawled under and engaged his rear locker. He attempted again. Then we tried to engage his front locker, and he attempted it again, and he still didn't make it. So we're like, okay, winch. He's like, my winch isn't hooked up either. And we're like, okay. So then Scott in the 80 series wheeled up.
Yeah, the white 80.
White 80, not the white whale, but the white 80. Mm-hmm. The white rhino on ice skates. Wheeled up, and we were going to do a snatch block from his rig around there's an anchor point at this obstacle.
Yeah.
Also.
Somehow tucked into the rock.
Yeah. We're going to run up to the anchor point, snatch block off of that, back to Trevor's rig, and pull him up. And right when we were setting this all up, we see these rigs in the distance coming the opposite way.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, man, okay, we're going to have to go talk to that. And I look out, and I go, I think I know that rig.
Yeah, that's the white mega whale.
Mega whale. A white 200 series with some blue fins in the back.
Yeah.
And I was like, is that them? And so I was like, hey, Johnny, I'll go up and talk to the people coming and let them know what we've got going on. You figure this out. And at that time, they were having all kinds of problems with Scott's winch.
Yeah. So he had a winch, and apparently at some point he must have winched on it and the spool just wasn't tight. So when that happens, that line, especially on synthetic ropes, will just dive in between the other lines, and it had dived so far and so deep that you couldn't manually pull it out and unspool it. So we had to put it on a line and use the rig's weight to unspool it.
Yeah, I remember Morgan was like, he looked like a rower or like a guy doing crew, right? He had his like feet against the bumper, and he would lean forward and grab the rope at the the fair lead and just lean backwards like he was rowing a boat and just trying to pull that thing out as much as he could.
Yeah.
And he did that a handful of times, and did it eventually come out at some point?
No, we got to a point, and I would, so I disengaged the winch and then rotate the drum so that, and then relock it and then stand on the winch line.
Yeah.
So that it could try and pull it out. And I pulled out maybe, I'm going to say 6 inches out of it.
Yeah.
But
a whole
couldn't get
6
any more.
inches. Yeah. That's all we ever needed.
Yep.
So at this point I walked up, and it was Dimitri in his white 200 series coming down the road.
What is that giant shark called?
Oh, the Megalodon.
Yeah.
The Megalodon.
The albino Megalodon.
Yeah. And Ben from Dissent Offroad.
Uh-huh.
And in
his white 80.
his white 80. So, and then they had a gray 100 series.
Yeah.
So they had a white 80, a gray 100 series, and then Dimitri's white 200 series.
Yeah. Before that.
Well, at this point, they kind of walked down. I went up to meet them, and we were up by the 40, and they're kind of like, "Why is this 40 parked in the middle of the road?"
Trail tampon.
And then I'm walking up, and they're like, "Oh, this guy," you know. And it was like Dimitri and Jesse, one of the like guys behind the counter there. And then there was Ben and Justin, like their social media guy, Dissent social media guy. And then there was a handful of guys from like Dissent that I really had no idea who they were, but must be employees or other guys.
Yeah, and they're their media guy too. Their Dissent media guy.
Justin, right?
Yeah, Justin. Yeah. And then I forget who was driving the 100.
Yeah, I don't know who that was.
Yeah.
So they had a little crew with them too, and so they came down and then we're watching what we had going on, and they're like, "Do you want us to just drive down here and pull him out? Like, we can drive down and winch him up. Like, that's not a problem." And we were like, no, let's see if this works. And then eventually it was like, hey, we can't get this winch to work on Scott's 80. And we're like, okay, yeah, let's have you guys come down. So then Ben from Dissent in his 80 came down and used the winch, and we pulled Trevor up the hill.
Yes.
I had to think about that one.
It'll sink.
Yeah. And so Trevor pulled out of the way, and then Scott drove around. No, Scott tried to attempt the ledge on Hamburger Hill, and then he winched himself up because at that point, you guys got the winch out enough to connect it to, I almost said Trevor's rig.
Yeah.
And then you had them back down to unspool, use the vehicle's weight to back down to unspool the rig.
Yeah, that was the only
winch.
way to get that thing out.
Yeah.
Or have somebody winch his winch.
Right. And so then they put the spool and the rope back on by hand, and then Scott drove up the ledge, and then he didn't make it, so they attached the winch and winched himself up the ledge. And I'm like, dude, you just sank your line all the way to the bottom again.
Oh.
Like, that line is never going to come back out. Like, you guys are going to have all these problems again.
Yeah, and it's not good for the winch line either.
No.
So, but, yeah. Happens.
And then pretty much at that point, I think we turned to Dimitri and Ben and said, do you guys want to go down? Like, you want to kind of get past us at this point? And they're like, oh, I don't know, maybe. And when I turned to Dimitri, I'm like, you guys, like, we have like 5 more rigs that need to go up.
Yeah.
And you have 3 rigs that need to go down. Like, you guys should take this advantage. And he's like, okay. And so they went down no problem for the most part. The 100 series didn't have rock sliders, so they took it down slowly.
Yeah.
And they did a fantastic job.
Yeah, he get down great. You just, whoa.
Food arrived.
You just had to, he was very well spotted.
Yes.
And just made it down super clean.
Yeah. Yeah, they did a great job. And then at that point, after they made it down, we started all going up. I think next to go up was Richard.
Yeah.
He attempted it. He would have made it. He would have made it up the wall, except he ran into the rocks on the top of the wall.
Yeah, a little too far right.
A little too far a passenger, and it bounced him really hard, driver, and it just put him in a bad spot at that point. So
yeah.
Winch up, and then you were next.
Yeah, and then I...
What happened there to Lee?
Everything. Everything happened. It's like I'd never wheeled before.
You did fine.
No, I got stuck.
You did great.
I got stuck before
getting to the ledge.
I got stuck before the ledge.
Yeah.
And then finally got through that point. And then when I got on the ledge, it got really squirrely and tipsy.
Yeah.
So it's like, whatever, threw the winch on.
Something about your rig when you were going up the ledge and you're near the top, you started pulling your passenger tire like off the ground.
Yeah. It just went super
Nobody
tipsy.
else did that.
Special.
Yes, you are. Yes. We've known that for a while. Yeah, so I don't know what it was. So you had something, you were just in a funky line, or something's up with that suspension. That's great for fast and, cross desert stuff, but when you start really putting a load on the vehicle, it just is unloading and lifting that tire up when you're at that angle. I'm not sure what was going on. It was weird.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it got into a spot where I was like, nah, I should stop.
Yeah.
So
you winched up the ledge there.
So I winched up through the ledge.
Yeah. Morgan was next. He did a really good job, and he just tried to crawl the hill. And maybe if he would have had lower air pressure, he might have made it.
That's what he says.
That's what he says.
That's
but
what
he
he
didn't
says.
make it. We'll just
No.
go out there and say he didn't make it.
Yeah.
But he started to go up. He had to turn passenger, or else he was going to hit the rock that Richard hit. And as soon as he turned passenger, the rig slid down into the spot where once you're there, you're never going to make it out.
Yeah, and I haven't seen anybody crawl that.
No.
Richard said he's tried before in the past too.
And he didn't make it?
And he didn't make it. And once you get far to the left, there's an
an undercut section, and you're climbing a bigger wall, and it's not nearly as nice.
Yeah, you need 42s and lots of horsepower.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Then I was next, and I had Paul drove all the way up until more or less the ledge, and then that's when Morgan was trying to climb the wall, and he was hanging out. I'm like, let's just switch here. I don't need you to. While you're waiting, I don't need you to move 5 more feet forward for me to switch. Because he didn't want to do the wall, but he was okay driving up the rocky section.
Oh, okay.
So I took over. I wheeled up. Johnny was sort of spotting, because I didn't want to hit the rock that Richard hit, but I knew I needed to be far passenger to kind of get an idea of that.
Yeah. So
then I was in low until I got my tires on top of the ledge. I took my front T-case out from 2.28 to 1, and I put it in second gear. I revved the engine a few times, dropped the clutch, and popped up the hill.
Yeah.
And made it to the top and drove up the hard part. If you watch the video, my front tires pulled over and I was good, but my rear tires got up but then slid over.
Yeah.
And since I was still on the accelerator at that point, I was in the hard section, but I went over the taller part of the wall.
Yeah. I think if you get your tires up and you're kind of like semi-cresting, then the rig kind of scoots over left, and then with enough lightness or horsepower, it pops over.
Right.
And I've seen Jeeps do a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, and it just bobcatted over as usual.
Mm-hmm. Bobcat's over. I like it.
Yeah.
We'll add that as a sound clip.
That's sweet.
So I made it up. The only other person behind me was the 60, and he went around the bypass.
Yeah, which is sketch.
This bypass is sketch. You're turning, you're doing like a 3-point turn, literally almost hanging a tire off the edge of a very steep hill.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I'd rather winch up the other line.
Yeah, right? Winch me up. I know I'm a little bit safer. After that, you're kind of driving along the cliffside.
Yeah. There's a few obstacles here and there. Dropping down through the river, some mud spots, some things that feel a couple off-camber spots maybe, where you got to get out and look. But for the most part, it's pretty chill.
Yeah, it's a great scenic spot because you're doing this big like U-turn along the cliff. And when you're at the back, you see all the rigs in front of you, all kind of like sporadic along the cliff line, driving around. And I have a great photo of everybody out there. Like,
cool.
Making that U-turn, big U-turn along the cliff.
Yep.
Which is rad. There's another 1 or 2 little obstacles after that. Some little ledges you have to climb. A bunch of more crossings of the creek.
Mm-hmm.
And
we broke off a rear bumper.
Yeah, we broke off a rear bumper of Trevor's rig. I don't know how he did it. Were you there?
Yeah, he was. So there's a spot where there's it's a ledge, and it's multiple choice.
Like 3 options, really.
Yeah. There's a buggy line. Of course, Richard tried it. And then there's a middle line, and then maybe an easier line.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I didn't even look at it. But
neither did I.
It was steep enough that you would hit your rear bumper, and he has his rear bumper so it's removable, so he can pull out the spare.
Yeah.
And it removed itself.
Yeah. It wanted to eject itself from the rest of the vehicle.
Yeah.
He had it bolted in at some point, and it sounds like he maybe lost some bolts or something because the threads were still working.
Yeah, they just sheared.
Yeah.
They were all...
but they weren't in there.
Yeah, I think he pulled them out.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I saw him earlier, and the studs were still in the frame side.
Oh,
yeah,
got it.
So he just sheared them off.
Okay, and was it because he trying to hit the ledge and go up, or was it when he was backing, he came back down, and it broke off?
I was spotting Richard
at the time.
At the time,
yeah,
and I heard a loud bang. But there are enough people spotting him over there. I was like, something happened over there.
Yeah.
And
that's funny because we heard the big bang and we saw Richard from our point down in the creek still.
Oh.
And we're like, oh dang, what happened?
Yeah.
What just happened? And then all of a sudden we see Richard back up and then drive away. We're like,
Nice.
what just happened there?
Yeah.
And then we get up there and I hear about the bumper.
Yeah. Richard got in a spot where he was so straight up that his bumper was hitting and he couldn't back up anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I ended up throwing. It would be nice to say that I winched him out, but we threw some rocks behind him to lift his bumper up so he could get out.
Got it. Yeah. So did I do the same line that Richard did?
You did the line that Richard attempted.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And I walked it.
You bobcatted it.
I bobcatted it.
Yeah, all day.
I slammed into it first, let's be honest. Did you hear it?
No.
Oh man, it shattered me and Paul. Like we were like hit the wall and both of us were like, oh gosh, that hurt.
Yeah.
And
but if you're going like 3 miles an hour,
I was going
it
slow,
feels
but
like
still
that.
you
Yeah.
slam into something.
Yeah.
And so and Paul was like, are you going to try that again? And I was like, yeah, hold on. And I backed up. I just, you just turn the vehicle just a little bit and you turn your tires into it and you don't try to nose up to it.
Yeah.
And you can grab a tire and then you start climbing and then you can turn in.
You can straighten
and
out.
you can straighten yourself out.
Yep.
And you can walk up and he's like, oh, okay. I got that.
Yeah, you
It's
got
like, I thought you were going to hit again.
it.
Yeah. And I don't know what I did. I just sort of like, well, let's see how this kind of goes. Let's see if I can just walk up this. And at some point I like skidded a little bit and then I just grabbed and I just whoop.
There was a
got to the
part
top.
of the bottom that's not as steep, and it kind of I think it's kind of scooped out.
Yeah.
So once you got over that and got your tire on it, then enough of your tires, and you're so light.
Yes.
You just jump up everything.
Right.
So yeah, you just bobcat up the stupid thing again.
Yeah.
And so That's why I keep telling you need to run 32s to be more interesting.
Lee kept telling me that I needed to put 32s on my rig so that I could compete and have struggles.
Yeah, have some fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too easy.
Yeah, maybe it is. From there, there's not a whole lot. I mean, it was just a few more river crossings, a little rock garden.
Yeah. There was one other spot to go up if you're going down this trail. There's one other spot that's right past a river crossing.
Yeah.
And
right after that, actually.
Oh yeah, okay. And there's a left line and a right line. I think they're about as hard for both of them.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one was more difficult.
Yeah.
But it seems like the left line, the driver's side line, puts you more off camber.
Yeah, a little bit.
And so when I went the driver line, because I was like, that doesn't look fun. Like, I'm not doing that. The driver's or the passenger side line, you had to climb another rock. But I wasn't nearly as off camber as what you guys were going.
Oh, you're talking about the second one.
Oh,
there's
okay.
one before that.
Okay, and maybe okay. So there's a few more spots after that.
There's a couple little spots. They're not Hamburger Hill.
No,
but you
have to pay a little.
You gotta look at them. You
Yeah.
gotta get out and look at them and find a line and then drive up it.
Right.
You're good.
Yeah, and then it was sort of just a sandy fire road out.
Yeah. Then it's like try to find the trail.
Yeah. It was a good thing you had a map because the rest of the group left us.
Yeah.
Because we were putting Trevor's bumper in my rig.
Yep.
And strapping it up because that's what you do if somebody has a truck with a bunch of Land Cruisers.
That's what I said. I said there's a pickup back there. There's a work truck back there. Should we throw the bumper in there?
And so I said, okay, let's do it.
It's the fastest solution.
It was. And it worked out great. And so, yeah, we wheeled out to the trailhead. Trevor took the bumper out. He found some bolts. He put it back in.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he wired it back up because it has all of his brake lights and blinkers and everything in it.
Who knows?
Yeah. And then we bombed down the road fairly well. How did your rig handle after driving that trail?
Better.
Better. Everything's aligned.
Noise.
Yeah. Except for your AC noise.
Oh yeah, that was fun. Yeah.
So somebody has a loose belt.
Yeah, my AC belt's loose, apparently. So every time the AC engages, it squeals like a pig.
Yeah. I
don't know if hippos squeal.
Yeah, a white whale squeal. Yeah. The howl of a white whale.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Bobcat cruised well. I mean, it cruised as well as it ever has.
I was surprised because we started down that road and Morgan took off, and usually it's whatever I can do to try and keep up is on flat road.
Right.
You don't completely have me on dirt roads yet, Morgan, but on flat road, he usually takes off, and then
he has a turbo under his, and you don't.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That makes a little sense.
Yeah, that helps. And then we were just cruising, and then here comes Bobcat behind me. I'm all sweet.
Yeah, took me a
vendor
little
night.
bit more to get up the hill, but once we were on the downhill, I was able to keep up with you guys.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a good trail. What'd you think? What's it rated? It's rated a 7. Would you give it a 7 out of 10?
It's like a 4 with a 7.
Yeah.
With a couple of 7 spots.
Yeah.
Like
it really is.
Yeah.
And therefore, I would say it's a 7 because
then you have to.
You have to. It's a super easy trail. Like if you wheel to Hamburger Hill and turn around and go back, 3 or 4.
Yeah. What if you wheeled it downhill like the Jeep version?
like a Stellar Belt and Dissent version?
I did not say that, but
I would put it at like a 6. 5 or 6 because it's still hard to go down some of those obstacles.
It's still technical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it definitely is.
But you'll find your way down.
Yeah, gravity helps.
Yes.
Especially when you have a 200 series.
Oh man.
Or something heavy like like most Land Cruisers.
Yup. That's the problem.
That's your MO.
That's the problem.
But yeah, it's a fun trail.
It's great.
I really enjoy the trail. I like the technical aspect of the Hamburger Hill, but even just driving through the wash, through the river a few times, having some fun down there in the trees and just weaving through all the bushes. It's a fun trail.
It's great. Especially, it's a nice contrast to a lot of the other trails around here.
That's true.
That are like you're on top of everything the whole time, which it's fantastic views and everything. But if you want to mix in something that feels different, then it's great for that.
Yeah. That's a good point, because I do think a lot of trails drive up to a vista to get this view.
Uh-huh.
And this one, we're down in the canyon, and it's a different experience.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like it. Well, would you suggest it to others?
absolutely.
I would too. It's not like one of the well-known ones. It's not one of the, like, Hell's Revenge or I don't know, whatever one. Fins and Things
Golden
or
Spike.
Metal Masher, Poison and Spider, Golden Spike, but it's definitely a fun trail.
Yeah, you definitely should get on it and try it, especially if you've been on all the other ones so many times. Then give it a run.
How long did it take you?
Oh.
Because you got to the trailhead at 8:20 and we got off at 3:30?
Sure.
It was something
Sounds
like
about
that.
right. Yeah.
Whatever that math's out to be. I don't
Yeah.
have the math in me right now.
So that's 7 hours.
7 hours,
Yeah.
and we weren't going very fast.
No.
So you could do
Definitely
it
not.
faster,
Oh, yeah.
and you might run into traffic. It might slow you down. If you're with a smaller group, you'll go a little bit quicker.
Mm-hmm.
But I would at least allow for 7 hours. It's a one-day trail. Like, I wouldn't plan Kane Creek and another trail in the same day.
No.
I would just do, you're going to run a trail today? Run Kane Creek, and that's a good one-day trail.
Yeah. And we took it a little slower, too, I think, because it was so hot.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. It was warm.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in some of those puddles or little pools down there for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Well, any final words?
Get out, wheel. Take the optional lines.
I like it. And with that, my friends, keep crawling. You have any good jokes, Lee?
Do I have any good jokes? I must have at least one. The one that came to my head is, I think you've already said on the podcast.
Well, you haven't said it on the podcast.
All right, fine. What's brown and sticky?
I don't know. What?
A stick!
Ah, you got me. I was thinking of poop.
Oh. Children.
Who, us?
Yes.